Hey everyone, Sarah here. I am so excited because I just sat down with Amy Archer from Little Miss Recap and we talked all about the Karen Reed case. You guys know that I have been following this case diligently and I just had to dish on it with someone, and Amy, also very much interested in the Karen Reed case, was happy to join me so we could both just share our thoughts with each other. So enjoy this discussion. And then afterwards, we do talk Sister Wives, what is ahead for season 19 for about 5-ish minutes. So enjoy. Hello, everyone. I am sitting here. I'm Sarah from Realiteasquad. I have Amy here from Little Miss Recap. And depending where you're listening, you might hear it on my YouTube channel, or Amy, you're going to be putting this up on your podcast. So
Yep.
Hello if you don't know who I am, and welcome.
And hello if you don't know who I am.
Yeah.
I'm reporting live from Gargamel's castle behind me.
Yes, we have boots on the ground right now. Yeah. Amy, I have followed Amy. I would listen to Pink Shade, and she would be doing correspondence with Mary Payne over there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Splish Splash, We're All Trash. She does collabs pretty frequently with Ace and Caitlin from the Shit Talk podcast. So if her voice sounds familiar, that might be where you're hearing her from if you are also in those communities. So
yes, absolutely. And we will be doing an upcoming collab, Little Miss Recap and Shit Talk, on Karen Reed. So if you can't get enough of me talking Karen Reed,
I cannot get enough of this case. I can't believe. I guess, okay, so we're going to be talking, we'll probably be dipping into Sister Wives a little bit because that is what binds us together. But yes, we're talking, I wanted to talk to you about Karen Reed because I have watched every single day of this trial. I think before we jump into it, let's get a baseline. I think people that follow me probably know I'm pretty heavily invested in the conspiracy theory. I've pretty much bought into that hook, line, and sinker. Where do you stand on guilt, innocence, conspiracy, cover up?
Would it end the show completely if I was like, she's a total murderer? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No.
There's someone on the jury that thinks that.
And I have a theory of who that is.
At least one.
As a Gen Xer, it is my inclination to believe conspiracy theories. So when I heard this, I was like, oh yeah, 100%. This is a setup. But the more, I've watched it. I haven't watched it. You're probably much more well-versed than I am, but I've been dipping in and out, and I am 100% convinced that the state did not meet their burden of proof.
Right. So, and I'm listening to the prosecutor's podcast right now because they're covering this.
I've heard that's good. I got to check it out.
Yeah. So they think, and this is two prosecutors, that the defense really saddled themselves with an undue burden of trying to prove something that they didn't need to prove with this conspiracy or cover up.
Oh, that's interesting, because all they need to do is prove reasonable doubt. That's it.
But see, what I'm thinking, so let's go back. Let's set a baseline just in case you're out there and you're like, Sarah, I watch Sister Wives. What the hell are you talking about?
Right.
So in Boston, back in early 2022, a Boston police officer, John O'Keefe, was found either dead or dying on the front lawn of another Boston police officer's house named Brian Albert. And it was blizzard-like conditions. Now, my husband is from Boston. The level of importance they give to blizzard-like conditions just depends on who you're talking to. So from what my husband saw on like the dash cam video, he didn't think it was that serious.
Well, I believe it was. So I had Jodine Weber on and we were talking about this. She does a great she's a retired FBI agent. I'm not sure if you know who she is. She does a great podcast called Caught in My Web. And she was saying that that was the night of the huge, like, crazy blizzard that they had, but it had just been starting.
Right.
So, like, all we're seeing is the beginnings of it. And as a Northeast Pennsylvania girl, I get that. So probably 2-3 inches have fallen. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I need like 5 days notice to prepare to go to the snow. I'm from Los Angeles. I live in Florida. I did live in New York for 5 years, so I have experienced snow, but I'm very inept for like what scraping.
Well, I will tell you, just having driven in snow most of my life, the fact that these people were all trashed driving around, I don't know how they're getting anywhere.
The culture around drunk driving in Boston is like a subplot.
The culture around drunk driving in a lot of these small northern rural towns, because I'm in one, and let me tell you.
Because they're all cops. So like, the one guy, Brian Higgins, literally had to be blasted, and he drove to the Canton Police Department or something.
Right.
So, yeah, it's crazy. So the prosecution is saying Karen Reed backed into her boyfriend, who she had been fighting with, going 24 miles an hour and mortally wounded him and then left him to die in the cold. His cause of death was blunt force trauma, and then hypothermia, they determined, contributed to his cause of death.
Right. They did not rule it murder. Very important.
Right. Oh, yes.
Like they didn't rule it a homicide. They didn't rule it a homicide.
Correct.
Yep.
And the ME would not speculate even as to what caused him to end up where he ended up. Okay, the prosecution, you're saying he got hit by a car. Cool. The defense is saying he was beat up and then, I don't know, dragged out there or put out there, bit by a dog at some point in the evening. Okay, cool. So we have these two conflicting theories. The one thing, though, that I think that the prosecutors, this podcast that I'm listening to, in order to establish that these taillight pieces, so part of what becomes central to this story, what is locked her into, she is the culprit, are pieces of her taillight are found at the scene. But they're found at different times, different.
The number of them keeps changing.
Yes. Nothing.
Some are on top of the snow, some are under the snow. We don't know.
Nothing is consistent in police reports. This is the first. I watch a lot of true crime, and I know you. I've listened to your coverage. I know you watch a lot of true crime. This is the first case that I have followed where the prosecution is telling you, the cop just got it wrong, or it was a typo, or I mean, the amount of butt dials and typos, and
the amount of butt dials alone.
They called it the butt dial trial.
Like, I've butt dialed a person or two in my life.
Yes.
I just call it like fat finger dialing. I've done this many times, but never like 6 times in a row at 3:00 in the morning to someone I'm implicated to be in a crime with.
And never like at those times. And then we have later on with this Google search, because I need to know where you have landed on, because this really seems to be the hook point for a lot of people. If Jen McCabe makes this Google search at 2:27, obviously,
yes,
there's a
done deal.
Yeah. But
I believe she did.
I do too.
I
do think that the defense's witnesses that they called were very credible, but
I agree.
But neither one of them said
they couldn't say. Right.
Yeah. Right. So it's like, well, tell me what happened. And it's so frustrating.
I agree. I think that's around the time that they were trying to decide, like, what the hell are we going to do with him? Excuse me. And they were like, well, maybe we could stick him outside. Because my big sticking point with this is always, and I made Jodine Weber like break it down for me. Like, how do you go from shit, there was a fight? Oh, can I curse?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Shit, there was a fight. and so like I don't know if they went in with the intention of killing him, right? But he was ended up dead. However that happened.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go from there to we're going to pin this on Karen Reed, who happened to have a broken tail light, to make it look like she hit him? And Jody Weber said she believes that they left him out there to look like he was hit by the plow.
I
And I was like, okay. But
Mm-hmm.
then Karen Reed just presented an opportunity because she's, driving around all hungover with no memory of what happened, saying, did I hit him? Did I hit him? I also don't know if I believe that she said, did I hit him?
Yeah, I think she could have definitely wondered. What is interesting to me, because I didn't start following this case until jury selection. So there's like a whole life this case has lived with the last 2 years. Apparently she retains David Yannetti like that day, like January 29th. Like she texts him, she needs a DUI attorney. When he first is representing her, he is making statements like they've overcharged her. She didn't mean to do anything. There was no intent. So I think even she was confused as to what exactly happened. But I think once they saw like his injuries, once they saw it, like just the inconsistency, I cannot believe that after an expert, and granted the jury doesn't know that these were FBI obtained experts, saying that like his injuries, the way the prosecution is saying this happened defies the laws of physics. Case closed for me.
Case closed.
We cannot know. And what is so sad and what I really struggled with, I was in like the lawyer, Emily D. Baker. I'm super chatty because I just got to know, like, how do we, like, okay, we're going to acquit Karen, right? And then we're going to file charges against the McAlberts and like, we're going, right? Well, no, like this is kind of the one shot at justice for John O'Keefe. If she gets acquitted, how are you going to tell? And you put all this effort and energy and money into saying she did this. How is the prosecution going to turn around and now say, JK, it was actually this guy?
It's just so crazy. And I can't help but, and this is going to sound weird, but in my opinion, there's a lot of parallels between O.J. Simpson in this case. And I'll tell you why. Because, I mean, I don't know where you fall on O.J. Simpson, but hot take, I thought he was guilty.
I'm from Los Angeles. We'd had the riots, Rodney King, OJ, all in succession. My grandmother, I hope she's not watching this. She at first believed OJ was innocent. She just could not.
I think some people did. And that brings me to my point, which is you had a real problematic police force there. And you had Mark Furman and you had all the racism, and that made that case what it was. Like that really, I mean, yes, there was his celebrity and all of that. But once we started hearing, even those who kind of knew he was guilty, they were like, these cops are not great.
No.
So like here we have it again, but the person I believe is actually innocent. And so, and then it also begs the question of how many people has this happened to? How many people, especially in poorer communities, have been wrongfully incarcerated because of this kind of stuff?
I have spiraled, I tell you.
I know.
It kept me up at night thinking, because I think the lawyer has guesstimated that Karen Reed has probably spent around $1 million on her defense team.
Oh, yeah.
This is not obtainable for most people to be able to spend that money on these kinds of attorney. Action Jackson and whatever they're calling them.
No. I will tell you right now that most Americans in this country could not afford a DUI, let alone $1 million lawyer. DUI in Pennsylvania will cost you 10 grand. A lot of people can't afford that.
Unexpected?
I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just watching Unexpected, and one of the teenage moms is talking about how she just never got divorced because it was too expensive. So she's with this other guy, but she is still legally married to the girl's dad because, you know, divorce is expensive.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely.
She's like,
So I just feel like this is, you know, I don't think it's a coincidence that this is a middle class, at least upper middle class white woman in Boston that this is happening to, and we're all paying attention. I mean, this has probably happened. I'm glad we're paying attention. I'm glad.
And I think, you know, you're drawing parallels with O.J. Simpson where we're talking about like, you know, pretty white women getting attention. It reminds me of like Gabby Petito. And I was like
Sherry Papini.
I was every day watching the news. We gotta find her. And then uncovering and this, because I myself was ignorant to the amount of missing people of color, indigenous
women.
It's a huge problem. And actually Gabby Petito's family, I don't know if I hope they're still advocating, but they really were advocating for finding missing women of color for a long time after her remains were found. So it was good to see some good coming from such a horrific tragedy. But yeah, it's, you know, she's attractive, she's white. And
I mean, you know, these systems, these oppressive systems have to be dismantled. And if this is what it takes to do it, that's great. And you know, there's millions of cops out there who are great and who are not involved in stuff like this, but this is a good old boy network. From where I'm from, Scranton, Pennsylvania, we have a lot of this. One of our like mayors was arrested by, I want to say by the FBI, like in the middle of downtown. That's how bad it is here. So
when we're talking OJ, and I'm not saying the LAPD is like anywhere the beacon of morality when it comes to policing. But when I tell you that after the riots and Rodney King and the verdict for those cops and then OJ Simpson, the LAPD was turned inside out. And it certainly is not a like we have no problems anymore.
The work is not done, but at least it started.
It was we are going, we hear the people crying and we're going to address this issue. Did you see the statement that the head of the Massachusetts State Police put out? Yes, I think it was yesterday after Michael Proctor.
About Michael Proctor?
Yeah, well, it was kind of.
Well, I saw he's being transferred, which I don't know if that's like Catholic Church style transfer.
I think it is. From what I've heard, he's being Catholic Churched. He's being rehomed, essentially.
We're rehoming Michael Proctor.
Interestingly enough, that Catholic Church scandal also busted. Like, what's up?
And Michael Proctor also involved in 2 other cases that are real suspicious.
Are we going to? So Brian Walsh.
And who's the other one? Sarah? No, what's her name?
Sandra Birchmore.
Sandra Birchmore. Thank you.
So I don't know if he's involved, if he was leading. I am not 100% sure. I know that that Kevin Albert, the Canton Police Department Albert, was involved. He responded to the Sandra Birchmore scene. That is a whole disgusting case of an abuse of power. And I'm going to tell my husband is from Hull. My mother-in-law was living in Norwood, which is one of the Alberts or McCabe's moved to Norwood at some point after selling a home or something, or maybe it was Chris Albert. I'm not sure, but all of my in-laws, not surprised by this story. And
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. But I would be and even growing up with the riots and all this stuff and all of this blatant corruption, I would be shook to hear of a story like this coming out of Los Angeles. And the fact that my mother-in-law, I would talk to her every single day about this trial. And my husband is like, yeah, those are stadies. Those are troopers. Yeah.
It's
What are
so
you gonna
crazy. And when you think about it, like I often go back and forth about the perils of social media, right? Is it good? Is it bad? This is one of the cases where it's good. We have
do?
transparency like we've never had before. We would have no idea about any of this police brutality that's happening in this country if it wasn't for social media. So
Yeah.
I do think, the question is, could something like this happen? Absolutely. But is it less likely to happen in the shadows? I think so.
Yes.
Hopefully. So the
Hopefully.
fact that this happened, I don't know. The person that I find, speaking of social media, very interesting is, what is his name? Colin Albert
Mm,
with the
yes.
bruised knuckles in the
Yes.
picture.
17
Mm.
years old at the time of the
Mhm.
incident, kind of
Mhm.
a hothead. We saw the
Yep.
bang bang video and
Yep.
all that. Um, so if we're buying into conspiracy, I don't believe personally, I don't believe that that John O'Keefe was lured there for
I don't
any
either.
nefarious
I don't
purpose.
either.
What
Mm-mm.
I personally believe happened is something popped off like right away. And I personally feel like he maybe got knocked out, hit his head,
Yeah.
and it was like an oh shit moment, like, oh my God. And then it was
Yeah.
like a scramble to cover it up. And I think what
Yeah.
they had settled on was we're going to put him out on the snow and let people think he got hit by a plow. And then when Karen woke up and called Jen McCabe, I think Jen McCabe is a scrappy little thing. I think she
Yeah.
is really quick on her feet. I think
Mhm.
that she noticed Karen's cracked tail light. I
Yeah.
think also it is entirely possible that what the ARCA guys were talking about, if he threw his glass at her
Mhm.
tail
Mhm.
light, I think that also could have cracked her tail light and maybe left some pieces at the scene. For the initial pieces that the CERT team found, I think that either Jen McCabe transported them there,
Mhm.
or they if he did throw his glass at her tail light, that is what cracked it. But I think all the subsequent pieces of tail light, I think were definitely planted by Michael Proctor.
Yeah, I agree because all the videotape is missing. Like, this is the thing. If it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, like they're getting rid of their phones. They're deleting surveillance footage. That, like, this all screams that you're guilty. If you're not guilty, you wouldn't be doing this stuff. They know how to do. They know the rules here. They're cops.
Yeah, and see, I would go back and forth in the beginning because when I first heard about this case and they're like, "Oh, this girl is claiming a cover up," I was like, "Sure, Jan." Like just like every single person in prison didn't do it,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes. Yes.
I was framed. It's a cover up.
Mhm.
So I'm like,
Mhm.
"Okay, I'm interested." Like Emily D. Baker was going to be covering it, I usually put
Mhm.
her on when I'm at work, so I'm like, "Sure, I'll
Sure.
take a gander." And then I was like, holy crap, this could really have been a cover up. And then I had to like check my own self because I'm like, okay, if I say that this could happen here to a well-off white woman, like,
Mhm.
oh
Mhm.
my God, we need to go back
Yeah.
to every case
Yeah.
that Michael Proctor has ever touched.
Yep.
Frankly, we need to go back to any case any of these police
Any
officers,
case ever, just across the world.
every case in Massachusetts ever, we need to be. No, but seriously, I'm like, oh my
Let's
God.
take another look at those witch trials.
But
Let's take another look. See who
I
did
feel
what.
like we're doing trials 2.0 over here.
I know.
But
I know.
I usually am the person that's like, I trust law enforcement.
Mhm.
Why would we waste taxpayers' dollars? Why would we expend all this time and energy calling 17 people to sit for 9 weeks while we just tell you that this woman is a cold-blooded murderer, second degree
Because
murder?
good old boys are gonna good old boy. That's it.
Yeah,
That's what they're
I
doing.
it's really hard for me to accept that that could happen. And then all the
Yeah.
McCabe's and the Alberts start taking the stand, and I'm like, these people are
Yeah, and they're
shady.
they're all like downplaying their relationships. I mean, they sold the house, they rehomed the dog. I don't know where the dog's going. Maybe he's
The
going,
dog's
he's
dead.
getting rehomed.
Produce Chloe. So there's a theory on Reddit that one of the Alberts, not the 34 Fairview, but one of the Alberts homes, they filled in their pool. And that is not a typical thing to do. Usually you want a pool.
Yeah.
So people think that Chloe met a demise and might have been rehomed to the pool.
Oh, is this like there's 64 people in the Hoover Dam? Is it a similar situation?
Something like that. Yeah.
Chloe's in the concrete of the pool. Did they fill it in with concrete or did they fill it in with dirt?
Who refers to their family dog of 6 or 7 years as an it on the stand? That Nicole Albert referred to this dog as an it.
That's weird.
That you are trying to detach yourself from that dog.
Yeah. So where do you think they go now? Like, do you think that they're going to retry her? I know they're saying they intend to.
Yeah. So
that's different than saying they're going to.
Up until Monday night, I was like, let's fucking go. Like, I'm ready. Like, let's again, July 21st, 22nd, whatever. Like, set a date.
We're there. We're ready.
I'm ready. And then Proctor, so he hasn't been fired. I thought he was fired.
No, we can never fire anyone like this in this position.
Nope. I've heard that it's like incredibly difficult to actually fire a cop. So he's been reassigned or something. He's not on active duty anymore. And he's going to be having a disciplinary proceeding. Yeah. But if all of that is stemming from this investigation, how do you retry this case when he is your lead investigator?
Right. Like everything he touched is sullied.
But for me,
I think go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I am so like, I literally have OCD. I'm so OCD. Like I perish in the land of uncertainty. So a mistrial, this was like the worst case scenario.
Right. Because you need to have it come down on either side.
Obviously not for Karen Reed. Like obviously not a guilty verdict. But to have this looming what if, like there are questions. Like I need finality. And if they don't retry this case, we're never gonna have finality. The Alberts are always gonna be able to say Karen Reed is a murderer. Karen Reed is always gonna be pointing the fingers at the Alberts. And I suppose a certain amount of that is going to happen regardless, because there is going to be a certain segment of people that just refuse to, I don't know, be persuaded either. Obviously, that's how we ended up in a hung jury.
So let's talk a little bit about her actions when she wakes up, right? Okay. So she wakes up and we've all been there. We've all been like, oh my God, my head's pounding. I feel like trash. Yep. And she drank a lot.
And I think she's like less than 100 pounds. Yeah.
So she starts calling him, correct? And she calls him like a bunch of times.
Over 50 times, something like that.
And then she's also sending him messages like, you know, I'm here. The children are alone, blah, 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 whatever. I don't feel like to me, that feels genuine. Like, so I feel like she really didn't know where he was.
I agree. I think that first of all, that actually is what cements that more for me too, is that when she first meets up with Jen and Carrie the next morning, she thinks she left. She doesn't remember going to Fairview, which, I mean, when you're driving and you're blacked out, we know she's at least guilty of a DUI. I think we can all can all agree on that. But other than that, it becomes really up for debate. But so she thinks she left him at the waterfall. So she wants to go back there. They have to tell her, no, you dropped him off at 34 Fairview. So she doesn't even recall going to, that's how blitzed out of her mind she was.
So this is a part I'm a little fuzzy on. So I'm going to ask you to fill in some blanks here. So she calls Jen McCabe. She's like, I don't know where John O'Keefe is. We need to go looking for him. Does she go over there or does Jen McCabe come and pick her up?
From, I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think she first goes to Jen McCabe's house.
Okay.
Gets her, and then they go back to John O'Keefe's house. They look for him there. They don't see him. And then that's where the whole conversation of like, Karen Reed's obviously a murderer because she didn't take off her shoes like before she went back in the house. And then they go out looking for him. And that's when they go to 34 Fairview and she sees him on the ground.
So there was plenty of time for a text or a call to be sent to say she doesn't even remember being at 34 Fairview. She could have hit him. Let's make it look like she hit him.
I grabbed a couple pieces of tail light.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sprinkle this real quick.
But it's interesting what you said about the defense. Like, I'm trying to think now, so I understand what the prosecutors are saying. Like, they didn't have to get into the specifics of this cover up, but I think you do have to.
I do too.
If you're making the argument that you're planting evidence, you need to know why.
I do. Yeah. See, you have to make this look as nefarious as possible. You have to establish the tie from Michael Proctor to the Alberts. I also think one of the key text messages for me that was read out on the stand was this text message that came from his sister, Michael Proctor's sister, that said something to the effect of, I know this is your livelihood and I would never like jeopardize that, or something to that effect. To me, and like these are just text messages. He's a cop.
Yeah.
He knows that text messages are like, can be recovered. What are they saying to each other over the phone?
On the phone.
We never got his call records to see how many calls going back and forth between him and his sister were. What was his sister asking him to do where she felt like she had to text him and say, I know this is your livelihood. I would never put that in jeopardy. The sister is like best friends with Julie Albert, who is Colin Albert's mom. So it's...
And what does it say about them that the first text chain he's texting with that group of his high school friends out of state and everything, he's like, don't worry about the homeowner. He's a cop too. He's good.
And
like, it's weird.
And what I think is also important to point out about those friends is that some of those friends were law enforcement as well.
Yeah.
So when they said... What was key to me is when they're asking, oh, the homeowner is going to catch shit. No, the homeowner's a cop. Oh, okay. It's like they all knew. Oh, you tell me
the code. They know the bro code. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I don't know. We have to see what happens with the federal investigation. If the federal investigation, and how funny is this? Like, the federal investigation could come down to something as basic as Michael Proctor admits in that text chain that he searched Karen Reed's phone for nudes.
Yeah.
And other information, right? Did he have a warrant? If he didn't have a warrant, that could be what they get him on for all of this.
Well,
that could be what they get him on.
It looks like Higgins is going to go down for using the FBI resources for personal use and not... Yeah, all of the things these cops are going to go down for is not related to it's going to be related to like dumb things they did in...
Yeah.
Because if you have an expert say that it makes no sense that her car caused his injuries and his injuries make no sense for the damage that is alleged to have been attributed to her car, then how do you explain those taillight pieces getting there? They had to have made it there. And then who found those? Michael Proctor. Then the only logical explanation is he made that happen. And how, like, do you think Michael Proctor was just a useful idiot for the Alberts? Or was he more of a player in all of this?
The only reason I attribute some kind of nefarious intent to him is from those text messages. I mean, they were gross.
And
And
why such a visceral hatred of her? You don't
it's
even know her.
it's just misogyny. And that's that. So that leads me to my question. I'm dying to see the gender breakdown of the jury
Mhm.
because I'm wondering if one or two of those men on that jury, I think there were only 3. Is that right? Men?
I heard at one
Can't
point there
remember.
was 7 women, but I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure.
I'm
And
not 100% sure.
yeah,
But there were more women than men.
there
And
were.
I'm wondering if just based on the misogynistic like overtone of all of this, if one or two of those men was the holdout. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm so curious. I hope. I think one of the alternate jurors, juror number 3, she
Mhm.
didn't go on the news, but she spoke to a reporter.
Yes.
So she has kind of given her 2 cents. I cannot wait. I hope that someone on the jury speaks out. I want to know the split because in
Yep.
my mind it had to be one lone holdout, but I would be shocked to hear if it was like 6-6 or a 10.
I don't think so. I think we're going to see like a 10-2 situation.
Okay.
1 or 2, I think. 1 or 2.
Yeah, and because for me, I know how I am. Like
Mhm.
I could be really fucking sure of something, but if I am on an island by myself and everyone is like yelling at me, like, no, you're wrong, I'm probably like, okay, you guys are right. Like,
I'm the same way. I'm the same way.
I
I'm a
don't know
Libra. I can be easily swayed. I could see both sides of everything. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if I'd be have the gumption to like withstand
Yeah.
11 other people telling me like you're an
Like
idiot.
like 12 angry men just yelling
That
at
is
you in a room. Yeah.
exactly. So if I had a friend and both of us
Mhm.
were
Mhm.
feeling, then
Mhm.
I would feel better about my convictions for sure.
Well, so this begs the question, are we getting a season 2 of the Karen retrial? I think we're getting a second season.
I hope so. I hope so because I'm not done with these people. I have this was like our favorite TV show getting canceled before we
I
got a
know.
it's
I
like this
know.
is so unsatisfying. And
I know.
people sometimes I get criticized. Like I have to recognize these are real people, and I get that.
Yes. Yep.
But this is also like this is one of the craziest legal stories I've ever heard, and I feel like I have an idea of what happened to John O'Keefe, but I have
Mhm.
no idea what really happened.
Well,
So
and that's where it came down for me. Like at the end of the day, I can't sit here and swear on a stack of Bibles that Karen Reed did
no,
not hit him with her car.
yeah,
But I will tell you that there is enough reasonable doubt that I could not put her in jail for it. Period.
exactly. And when
Mhm.
we're talking about like letting OJ go,
Ugh.
that
Still
was
not over it.
essentially jury nullification. They had all the evidence and said, nah,
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
when you okay, so someone gets off. Casey Anthony, what? Like
Mm,
how does that happen?
I
How do
know.
this is what and then this is what else makes me spiral. God forbid I ever find myself accused of a crime. How can I trust 12 people, my peers, with the truth? Because so many times we see they get it wrong. And how many times have they gotten it wrong that we don't see? But it's different when
Right.
someone's going free and they got it wrong, right? Like
Yes.
nobody wants to
Yes.
let a murderer out,
Like
but
a Bob Durst situation
yeah, but you're not
the first time.
someone's
Mhm.
freedom. But we're talking about taking someone's freedom. We cannot get this wrong.
Right. Right.
Eh,
This is kind of what's happening right now with the Scott Peterson case, with the LA Innocence Project taking up his case. Like we covered that, and I was pretty sure, like I'm pretty sure he did it. I'm really sure he did it, but I don't know if the state proved it. I don't know, but I think in my heart of hearts he did it.
yeah.
So it's like it's a weird what's more important, like what I believe or the justice system? Like,
I also remember growing up when the Menendez brothers went on trial.
Yes.
And
Yep.
just the perception of the Menendez brothers were they're these asshole kids,
Spoiled,
just
rotten.
brats, just wanted to,
Yep.
They were flunking out of college. They were up to no good, killed their parents, whatever. Now in 2024, and they've been in jail for at least 20 something years at this point. They're claiming this abuse on the stand, and people are like, shut up, like you're just trying to get off, like whatever. But no, like turns out this probably really did happen to these two boys.
Well, it's the Gypsy Rose effect. Like we've been Gypsy Rosed, so now we see what that can do to you.
Oh yeah. And isn't it wild with Gypsy how the prison to influence pipeline, like that?
I have a confession to make. Amanda and I on my podcast are just for the first time going to be covering Mommy Dead and Dearest. I'd never seen it. I knew nothing about Gypsy Rose.
That's a great documentary.
I think I was living under a rock. I don't know. I was living in the brown cul-de-sac. I was on Coyote Pass. I wasn't paying attention.
That story is wild. It is so, and here's and tying it back to Karen Read, you can be a victim and be unsympathetic, right? Like there is no perfect victim. Karen Read can be a total bitch, right? Like she can be, I fully believe she yelled F you to that girl in Aruba and accused Johnny cheating on her or whatever. She probably is like super clingy and whatever. I mean, who amongst us hasn't been there? But she also could have not done that. And Gypsy, it's interesting. She, I think, was so conditioned to and was so mistreated by her mom that she is now a scammer herself, in my opinion.
Yeah, she's not great right now.
Like it's watching her is like, and they title.
But I can't believe like I never saw that case. I don't know what the hell I was doing. I really don't.
Yeah, and then what was so interesting to me when she got out of prison, and then she's saying how she wants to go to the Taylor Swift concert and she wants to like do all this stuff. And then she does get on the Kardashians. So that was a win for her.
She was on the Kardashians.
Yeah, she was on the. I don't know what season they're on, but
there's our OJ tie-in.
Yes. But it's so crazy, this like, this level of fame, because usually like Casey Anthony, I mean, she did do a doc not too long ago, but like when she was acquitted, she kind of just slunk
away, which she should have.
Which is what you do when you
get away with something, you sneak away.
Right. But Gypsy was like, nah, I killed my mom. Follow me for more info or something.
For more mom tips. I don't know.
For more life hacks. What so now that it's a hung jury, Michael Proctor, his future is up in the air. Do you think that this is just the first domino to fall, or is he going to be the one that? Okay.
I do.
I hope he's just the first domino to fall. I hope that he's not just, we're going to scapegoat him.
I don't think so. I mean, a lot of people who know a lot more about this than me are of the opinion that this is going to pretty much rip apart this police department. So we'll see what happens.
And what the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, because so much of this trial, what was interesting to me is the defense, or actually, no, the prosecution calling into question the reliability of Cellbrite, which is like the gold standard of phone extraction software. How many people have been convicted of a crime where it's like you Googled this, and this upcoming case, this guy, Brian Walsh, who Michael Proctor was the lead prosecutor on,
Mm-hmm.
his wife, I don't think has ever been found, her body, but they're
Well,
getting.
yeah, apparently he buried her in a couple different
Okay.
locations.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
been charged with murdering her and dismembering her. Michael Proctor was the lead investigator, and a lot of the evidence against this guy is based off of his Google searches. Now,
Right.
I don't know if the time of those Google searches is so
Right.
prevalent
Does it
as it was in
matter?
this case.
Right.
Like, if it
Yeah.
happened 4 hours after it really happened, I
Right.
don't think it really mattered. But if you're going to call into question the reliability of something that has been established as like a gold standard, what are we doing to? Are you just gonna the Murdoch?
Are you going to revisit all of those cases again?
Yeah, the Murdoch case was so heavily centered on, and it wasn't just what his if his phone was on or making a call. It was like your phone was in portrait mode. Your phone was opened by Face ID. Your phone was like there. We got real into the weeds with Alec Murdaugh's phone.
Yeah.
If we're gonna call all of that into question now, I feel like why are they willing to shoot themselves in the foot over Karen Reed, over if
I'm
she
not
goes
sure.
to jail for this? Because now anytime I hear a cell phone search being called into a case, I'm gonna say, I don't know. Because
we don't know.
they told me you can't, it might not be what we think it is.
And that cell phone search is everything, because it's very different. If you're Googling how to hide and dismember your husband at 2 a.m., fine. If you're doing it at 3 a.m. after he's been found dead somewhere, that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
time is everything.
Yeah. And so part of my hang up with this case is that in order for this conspiracy and cover up, everything just had to happen so fast. And I know myself, I'm not good in a crisis. I don't think on my feet like that. I'm not the type of person that a bad thing happens and I'm like, this is what we're doing. I would hardly get out a 911 call in a timely manner.
Well, and that's why I think it's so important to really prove that these people were all connected to one another, because they worked in tandem together. All these calls were made, all these texts were sent. They all worked together on this. I don't know, maybe it was one person's idea, but everybody helped.
Well, I personally think that John is super drunk showing up to this house.
Yes.
Also, so is Colin and all of, because you have this entire second set of this entire second party that is, it's like these poor like 18.
And another thing is like Karen Reed, like these people are people of a certain age. I'm a lady of a certain age. I don't want to go to an after party. I go and I have that much to drink, I need to go home and watch a rerun of the Casey Anthony trial.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going back out.
I've never identified more. Was it the Colakethis? I think that's how you say that. I'm not sure. But where the lady was like, no, I just been to a baseball game. I'm not going, like, I'm going home. Like, I barely wanted to go to the bar. Like, that is me. I'm like, I'm going to bed. Going to someone's house after a night drinking sounds awful to me.
Yeah, it's just that's something we did in our 20s, right? Like, I'm not doing that at, how old is Karen Reed? 44?
Yeah, she was
like, I'm 47. There's no way I'm going to an after party. No fucking way. No
9
way.
p.m. is midnight to me. It is. Yeah. But so there's speculation because this is another interesting point. Not only were Brian Albert and Brian Higgins out for hours before this drinking at these various bars, they were in New York earlier that day. They had I think they drove, or did they fly back from? They were traveling.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember.
They were at another police officer's funeral from early that morning. They had been going all day.
All day.
I've heard some people speculating that there might have been some white powder involved amongst
Maybe.
these, and that's how they could go so long. Because if I had 7 or 8 drinks, I'd be asleep on someone's floor.
I'd be on the floor after I ate probably 3 or 4 slices of pizza.
Yeah, and there would not be
Or
any
hit McDonald's on the way home.
You're waking me up to take me home. Like, I'm not waking
Yes.
up to
Yes.
rally. Like, I'm not
Yes. No.
I'm not 21 anymore. So,
There's no rallying here. No. So I don't know. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if you're Karen Reed and okay, let me ask you this. If you're Karen Reed and they're like, we're going to retry you, but we won't if you plead guilty to second-degree manslaughter or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you do it? I don't know.
If
Can
I'm
you afford another trial?
And that's but people are crowdfunding for her.
Good.
I wouldn't spit on these people if they were on fire if I was Karen Reed. That's how, like, I know. So I feel like she's not even going to plead to a DUI at this point, because at this point she has to double down, right? Like, I really feel like she has no other choice but to see this. But yeah, what if, because Alan Jackson has been kind of cagey about if he's going to stay on or not. People have asked, like, are you staying on? And he didn't directly address that question. I mean, I wouldn't expect anyone to work for free, but I have to imagine they said there were Netflix cameras, right? Like, following them around.
Oh yeah, they're making a documentary. 100%.
So, I mean, I think what he stands to make by staying attached to this case, he stands to make so much more than what his actual, like, legal fees would be. But yeah, this is just
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
I've been obsessed with it.
I'm so upset. I'm on the Reddit every night. And now I'm like I have to, like, join I have to join some people's cases re-looked at, because
the Innocence Project.
I cannot believe, like, and this Sandra, if you guys listening haven't heard of the Sandra Birchmore case, it is so much more interesting and vile than this case. Like,
it's real bad.
I mean, when you talk about, like, just the absolute most disgusting behavior by people that you think are supposed to protect you, you have a problem. You would hope that you could turn to law enforcement and say, help me, and they would help you. But that is absolutely not the case if you are a resident of Canton or a surrounding Stoughton or any of these surrounding areas. And the people, we can wrap up and end on this. The people seem to be rising up, because have you seen
they really are
that
and I will tell you, like, coming from a small town, we have I'm not even gonna say their name, but we have a family in our town very similar. If they don't like you, your kid's not playing on sports teams, you're not getting into certain schools, they control everything.
Wow.
And it's I've seen this happen. It's really crazy, and it needs to be this light needs to be shined.
I'm so glad it is, because I've only ever lived in, like, major big cities, and this just I'm struggling to.
Yeah, it's a small town mentality. It's real weird.
I appreciate the fact that, like, one bad cop could have so much sway over other I mean, I felt bad for that trooper Paul that had to try to establish the accident reconstruction. I actually pitied him, because I'm like, this poor guy just got roped into, he's being like education shamed for, like, only having ever achieved an associate's degree. Like, this guy is just trying to do his job and somehow got roped into this mess and literally cannot withstand the direct or cross examination.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of that. Like there's a lot of these experts being called into question, and we have a system. If you look at that on the prosecutor side, like we have a system of mostly white men, let's be real,
Mhm.
failing upwards. I mean,
Yeah.
that's very common. So you have all of these men in these positions that really aren't qualified to be there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but conversely, you do have people who can do jobs just fine without
Right.
having a PhD in something. It's fine.
Yeah. And people were getting a little sensitive about like, ugh, like I can't believe they're, just trying to shame him
Mhm.
for not. But it's like, okay,
Mhm.
when you're in court and the whole thing
Yes. Yes.
is like literally
Yes.
about like
Right.
physics and stuff.
Yep.
Like I
Yep.
have a bachelor's degree. I majored in political science. I'm not going to court to be an expert
You're
on
not going to
accident.
testify in front of Congress.
Right. No. And if I tried, I would be rightfully called out for not being qualified.
Right. Right. And
So,
I have a poetry degree, so I'm not qualified to do
oh,
anything.
that's lovely.
So
I
there you
like
go.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Not
Uh,
qualified to do much.
uh,
Actually, I'm qualified to talk shit about Cody and Robin.
so let's do a quick five
Yeah,
on
real
Cody.
quick, can I just ask
Yeah.
you a question about them?
Yeah. Hmm.
What does season 19 look like? We know it's been filmed. We know it's in the can. What does it look like?
I don't know. Because I feel like out the gate you have to address
Garrison.
Garrison. If you don't,
Yes.
it's going to seem so bizarre. And we know they have the ability to kind of jump ahead because they did that for Christine's wedding. So they could
Yes.
address it and go back. But
Mm.
then do we
But
really
what does the
care?
back look
Yeah.
like? You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Christine's road to the altar seems kind of silly in comparison
Mm-hmm.
to everything.
Like my dream season for them would be because there's still this little part of me that's like just holding out that they can all heal and come back together. So,
Mhm.
like, does season 19 start with us losing Garrison and then it's the aftermath and the path forward to a healed whole family? I
If
don't
I
know.
was
And I don't know what that looks like, but
if I was a producer, that's
mhm.
and this family still wanted to film, uh,
Mhm.
that is the avenue I would have gone. Just throw
Yeah, same.
everything that we had in the can in the
Mhm.
dumpster.
Yep.
Scrap that. Christine, you already got your wedding special. We know you're married.
Christine, we're done. We're done, Christine.
McKelty, your twins are almost 2. We
Mhm.
can
Mhm.
we can tie that up with a nice bow and call it a day
Yeah.
there. We
Sure.
don't need to do an entire season of what we were going to do because now life is so much different now for this family. And
Yes. And what
that
does
is
that look like? That's the
that's what
fascinating
people
part.
are interested in. If this family
Yes.
still wants
Yes.
to film, I know a lot of people don't think that they should, and that is, if people want to continue to watch the show, that's on them. If we'll continue to talk about the show, that's on us. Everyone has their own
Mhm.
choice to make.
Mhm.
But if they want to still film the show, I don't care about what all this stuff that we're gonna
I
inevitably
agree.
see.
I agree. I think it needs to be like we've been through the darkness with them, and
Yeah.
losing Garrison is probably the darkest like it could have gotten.
And
And
the fact that we know now this family is just as fractured as ever.
yeah,
Some of them are in Wyoming right now for a family reunion. McKelty's not. And
right.
after Garrison passed, McKelty was on her Patreon saying how they had all these things planned. They had this big family reunion. This is the family reunion. Why is McKelty not there?
Is she the only one not there? Who else do we know isn't there? Is
Well, I know
Christine
for
there?
sure
Christine's probably there.
Christine is there.
Yeah.
She just posted she and David got nachos from the
I
gas
saw that.
station that
Saw that.
so
Mhm.
she's there. I know Madison's there. Janelle's there.
Mhm.
Janelle said, I'm here with Maddie, Christine, and the kids. So I'm assuming other kids, but McKelty hadn't talked about this event and that it was going to be filmed and blah, blah, blah. It's for Garrison. And this was months ago, and now she's not there. Also, McKelty is moving away from Christine and Tony's parents, who both of Tony's parents, I think, have helped them a lot with childcare. And from what it seems like, I assumed Tony must have gotten like some sort of really amazing job, and that's what's taking them to North Carolina. That's not what it sounds like now. Now it sounds like they're talking about, oh, we were toying around with moving to Hawaii. It was either Hawaii or North Carolina. So why
those
are you,
two things aren't the same?
Not at all. Like why are you moving away from
Sarah, I'm toying with moving. Like next year, I want to go on vacation. I'm thinking of the Amalfi Coast or Youngstown, Ohio. Not sure.
Ooh,
Not sure.
That's a real choice. Yeah.
It's like these people are ridiculous. So, okay, McKelty, still making bad choices. Check. Come on.
It's like, to me, there's something there. Like, why are you, first of all, McKelty, you and Tony are so eager to film, and you're moving away from filming.
I feel like I thought they were moving towards Maddie, but it doesn't seem that way.
Yeah, that was, a side benefit. Yeah, it's cool that she also lives here. So why did you pick North Carolina?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm so confused.
I don't know.
Is there a big chess scene in North Carolina? I don't know. I thought.
And I saw you interviewed. Who's Benjamin? Is that a nephew?
Yeah, that's Cody's nephew. He's really fascinating. He's on TikTok. He is doing his own reactions to the show. He has really interesting theories about like soulmates, and just his perspective as coming from the AUB is really enlightening. I highly recommend.
I'll have to watch that.
Checking him out. Yeah.
But I'm interested. I want to see what happens. I'm going to be watching. We're going to be covering it respectfully, of course. And if it's more just, Gabe and Garrison being hurt and crying, that's going to be real hard for everybody to watch now. And we don't want to see it. Puddle Monkey, hear our pleas.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is if leading up to Garrison's passing, if all of that footage is centered around Garrison versus Cody, which is so much of season 18 was, that's going to be so distasteful. If now, because it seems like the siblings are getting together and they're close and whatnot, if it's about how we thought that our family would heal and we're really not, but you acknowledge this huge tragedy, then that's going to be different. But if it's like, if we see Garrison on camera and he's like beefing with Cody in season 19, that's
I don't want to see that.
Weird.
And I, to be fair, and I am no fan of Cody Brown.
No,
but Cody doesn't need to see that. And we don't need to relive that. So if I were Janelle and Cody, I would be like, this, as his parents, this is the decision we're making.
Yes.
But like, who knows?
We can address it and move and, film from that point on. But like anything that's in the can that he's a part, like that just would seem really weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, I never count on these production places.
No, I always I thought for sure, now we're gonna just speed up the timeline. We're like talking about a spring premiere. I'm like, great, like let's go. And and they're still planning on talking about McKelty giving birth. Her twins will literally be 2 years old in November.
God.
What is the point?
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Thank you so much for joining me, Amy. And if
thank you
on Amy's, thank you for having me, Amy.
Yes, you tell everybody where they find you if they're listening on mine, and I'll tell everybody where they can find me.
Okay, so I am Sarah, Reality Squad. You can find me on YouTube at Reality Squad. You can find me on Instagram, Threads, Twitter at Reality Squad. I'm mostly just on Instagram. I don't really twit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
And don't blame you. Don't blame you.
I'm mostly
I am
for Karen Reed trial coverage.
I'm impressed with your Instagram game. It's good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah.
Where can we find you, Amy?
I have this tiny little bug flying around my head.
I hate when that happens.
So my podcast is called Little Miss Recap, and you can find me at Little Miss Recap anywhere you listen to podcasts. I'm also on Instagram and on Facebook.
Oh,
Not in Facebook,
I'm on
on
Facebook
Facebook.
as well. So you can find me there too.
Yes.
Reality Squad.
Not on Twitter.
Or X.
Yeah. X. Yeah. But thank you. This was so much fun. I really appreciate it.
Fun. We'll have to do this again when
absolutely
Alec Baldwin is going to trial. We'll have season 2 of Karen Reed and so much more. So much more.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Take care. Thank you, Amy. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.